It's 4 o'clock on a random Tuesday afternoon, and you're sitting in front of your computer, staring at the screen without really seeing anything. You have work to do, half-finished projects, unanswered messages. But something much bigger is paralyzing you. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a deep, visceral feeling that you're going in the wrong direction, as if every step you take is taking you further away from where you should really be. You wake up every day with that weight on your chest, that question that won't leave your head. What am I doing with my life? And the answer never comes. Only silence. Only confusion. You look at the people around you and they seem to have everything figured out. They know what they want, where they're going, what the next step is. And you? You're lost. At least that's what you think. But let me tell you something that will completely change how you see this feeling. You're not lost. You never were. What you are is misaligned. And that difference isn't semantic. It's fundamental. Because when you're lost, there's no way out. But when you're misaligned, there's a precise protocol for recalibration. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. Henry Ford had a saying that most people don't know. He said, "A misaligned machine produces defective parts. A misaligned worker produces accidents. A misaligned factory produces losses. But nobody is born misaligned. Misalignment is always the result of incorrect inputs into the system. Your mind works exactly like that. It's a factory that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, processing information and generating results. And when the inputs are wrong, when what enters your head doesn't correspond to who you really are, what comes out the other side is that devastating feeling of being lost. But let's be precise here. Let's understand what's really happening at the neurological level when you feel lost. There's a system in your brain called the default mode network. It's a set of brain regions that becomes active when you're not focused on any specific task. When you're on autopilot, daydreaming, thinking about yourself. And here's the problem. This network was designed by evolution to make you think about the past and worry about the future. It takes all your regrets, all your wrong decisions, all the opportunities you missed, and keeps replaying them in an infinite loop. At the same time, it projects catastrophic future scenarios. And the result is a completely distorted mental narrative about who you are and where you're going. You start to believe you're lost because your own mind is telling you that all the time. But this narrative isn't real. It's just a bug in the system, a factory defect that we all carry. Now, let's add another layer to this. You have another system in your brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. This is where you process values, where you make decisions based on what's important to you. It's your internal navigation system. And when there's a discrepancy between what you value and what you're doing in your life, this system triggers an alarm signal. It's literally a physical sensation of discomfort that something is wrong. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. But what's really happening is that your biological machine has detected a misalignment between your core values and your daily actions. It's like having a GPS telling you to turn left when you're turning right. The system goes into conflict, and this conflict generates suffering. Here's the interesting part. The Stoics discovered this over 2,000 years ago, long before we had MRIs and neuroscience. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "When you are at war with yourself, you are at war with nature." He wasn't talking about nature in the sense of forests and rivers. He was talking about your essential nature, what you truly are when you strip away all the layers of social conditioning, all the external expectations, all the masks you wear. The Stoics had a concept called oikeiosis, which basically means natural appropriation. The idea is that every human being is born with a natural inclination towards certain virtues, certain values, a certain way of being in the world. And when you act according to that natural inclination, you experience what they called eudaimonia, which is poorly translated as happiness, but is more precisely a state of flourishing, of functioning according to your original design. So here's what's really happening when you feel lost. It's not that you don't know where to go. It's that you're going to a place that doesn't match your inner design. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. No matter how much force you use, it won't work. And the feeling of being lost is just the system's alarm, warning you. Misalignment detected. Recalibration needed. But most people interpret this alarm completely wrong. They think, I don't know what to do with my life. I have no purpose. I have no direction. And then they start looking for answers outside themselves. They read self-help books. They take courses. They follow gurus. They expect someone from the outside to come along and say, this is your path. But nobody can do that for you. Because the path isn't out there. The path is in the internal realignment between who you are and what you do. Henry Ford revolutionized industry with a simple principle: standardization. Each part had to be manufactured with exact precision for the entire system to function. There could be no margin for error. And when one part was out of standard, the entire system stopped working efficiently. Your life works the same way. You have core values, fundamental principles that define who you are. And when your daily actions are not aligned with these values, the system collapses. You may even manage to keep functioning, but it's a defective functioning. It's living in survival mode, not in excellence mode. And your body knows this. Your mind knows this. That's why you wake up every day with that feeling of emptiness, that you're doing everything wrong. But here's the good news. Misalignment is correctable. It's even easier to correct than being truly lost. Because when you're misaligned, you already have the right components. You already know deep down who you are and what matters to you. You just need to fine-tune, to recalibrate. And the Stoics created specific tools for this. These aren't abstract theories. They are practical protocols, tested for thousands of years, that function as mental realignment algorithms. Let's start with the first protocol, the most important of all. Let me pause here for a second and ask a question that perhaps no one has ever asked you. What is the physical sensation in your body when you realize you are out of alignment? Not the thought, but the feeling. Is it a tightness in your chest? Is it a weight in your stomach? Is it tension in your shoulders? Write in the comments. My feeling of misalignment is, your honesty will make someone else feel less alone today. And sometimes, that's exactly what someone needs to hear to take the first step. Now let me continue showing you how to break this pattern. The first Stoic realignment protocol is what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. And before you think you already know this, let me show you how to apply it in a way you've never seen before. Most people understand the dichotomy of control as there are things you control and things you don't control, so focus only on what you control. But that's a superficial version. The deep version, the one that really works, is this. The only thing you truly control are your internal judgments. Not your emotions, not your automatic thoughts, not your instinctive reactions, only your judgments, the way you choose to interpret what happens to you. And this is where realignment begins. Think about everything that's making you feel misaligned right now. Maybe it's your job. You're in a career that pays the bills, but means nothing to you. Or maybe it's a relationship where you're playing a role that isn't you. Or maybe it's a lifestyle you've built to impress other people, but that leaves you feeling empty inside. Now, apply the dichotomy of control radically. You don't control whether this job will continue to exist. You don't control whether this relationship will last. You don't control what other people think about your choices. The only thing you control is the judgment you make about all of this. And it's in that judgment that the key to realignment lies. The Stoics had a technique called hypothetical inversion. It works like this. Every time you feel that sense of misalignment, that weight of being in the wrong place, you stop and ask yourself, what am I judging as wrong here? Not what is objectively wrong, but what judgment am I making that is generating this suffering? Because here's the truth. The external situation is rarely the real problem. The real problem is always the judgment you are making about the situation. And when you can identify that judgment, you can recalibrate it. Let me give you a concrete example. You're in a job you hate. Every day you wake up with that dreaded feeling, that dread of having to do another day of the same thing. And you think, I'm lost because I don't know what to do with my life. But let's apply the hypothetical inversion. What is the real judgment here? It's probably something like, I should have a career that fulfills me, that gives me purpose, that makes sense for who I am. And since that's not happening, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. That's the judgment. And it's this judgment that's creating the misalignment, not the situation itself. Because there are millions of people all over the world who are in jobs they don't love, but who don't feel lost. Why? Because they don't make that specific judgment. They have a different judgment. So the question becomes, what alternative judgment could I make that would keep me aligned even in this situation? And here's where the Stoics were brilliant. They would say, the correct judgment is not that you need a fulfilling job to be aligned. The correct judgment is that you need to practice virtue regardless of external circumstances. And virtue, for the Stoics, wasn't cheap moralizing. It was excellence of character. It was doing the best work possible, treating people with respect, maintaining your integrity, developing your abilities, regardless of where you are. When you make this shift in judgment, the misalignment begins to disappear, not because the external situation has changed, but because you have recalibrated your internal navigation system. Henry Ford said that quality doesn't happen by accident. It's always the result of intelligent intention, sincere effort, and skillful execution. He was talking about cars, but he could have been talking about life. You won't feel aligned by accident. You won't wake up one day and magically discover your purpose. Alignment is the result of intelligent intention. It's you consciously choosing your judgments instead of letting them be chosen by social conditioning, the expectations of others, your fears and insecurities. It's you taking control of the only thing you can truly control, your internal response to what happens externally. And when you do this consistently, something interesting begins to happen. The feeling of being lost simply disappears. Because you realize you were never lost. You always knew the way. You were just using the wrong map. Now let's move on to the second realignment protocol. And this one is even more powerful because it works directly with your value system. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, which literally translates to premeditation of evils. But it's not what it seems. It's not pessimism. It's not catastrophizing. It's a mental engineering technique to eliminate false fears and reveal what really matters to you. And it works like this. Take whatever is making you feel misaligned and imagine the worst possible scenario happening. Not vaguely and anxiously, but concretely and in detail. Are you in a job you hate? Imagine being fired tomorrow, without warning, without a plan B, without a safety net. What would happen? Would you be left on the street? Probably not. Would you starve to death? Unlikely. Would you have to start over from scratch? Yes. And here's the crucial question. Would that really be the end of the world? Or would it actually be a forced opportunity for realignment? Because most of the time, what keeps us in misaligned situations isn't the situation itself. It's the fear of what would happen if we left it. And that fear is almost always disproportionate to reality. The Stoics practiced this daily. Marcus Aurelius woke up every day and mentally prepared himself to lose everything: his position as emperor, his family, his health, his life. And he did this not to be morbid, but to calibrate his value system, to remind himself what really mattered and what was just illusory attachment. Because when you honestly face the worst-case scenario, two things happen. First, you realize you can handle much more than you imagined. Second, you realize what you truly cannot lose. And this second point is fundamental for realignment. When you're misaligned, it's always because you're prioritizing something that shouldn't be a priority and neglecting something that should be a priority. You're giving energy to things that don't matter and denying energy to things that do. And premeditatio malorum reveals this crystal clearly. Because when you imagine losing everything, what remains is the essential. And the essential is always what is aligned with your fundamental nature. It's not the job. It's not the status. It's not social approval. It's your ability to maintain integrity. It's your ability to love. It's your ability to grow. It's your ability to contribute. These are the things you cannot lose without ceasing to be yourself. And when you reconnect with them, alignment happens naturally. Let me give you a specific protocol you can do right now, today, to begin this realignment process. You'll need 20 minutes of silence and a piece of paper. Sit in a place where you won't be interrupted. Then you'll ask yourself 3 questions. First question, if I knew I was going to die in exactly 1 year, what would I change in my life immediately? Don't think, just write it down. Let everything that comes out flow. Second question, of the things I listed, what really depends on me changing? What is under my direct control? Circle those things. Third question, what is the smallest possible step I can take today toward one of those changes? Not a grand plan, not a complete transformation, just a minimal but concrete action. And then you take that action. Today, before you go to sleep, not tomorrow. Today. Because here's what happens at the neurological level when you do this. Every time you take an action, however small, that aligns with your core values, you are strengthening the neural connections between what you value and what you do. You are literally reprogramming your mind to operate in alignment. And when you do this consistently, day after day, the feeling of being lost is replaced by a feeling of clarity, not because you've discovered all the answers, but because you are moving in the right direction, and your internal system knows how to recognize that. Henry Ford had a principle he applied in the factory. You can't expect different results by doing the same things. If a machine is producing defective parts, you don't solve the problem by producing more parts. You stop production, identify the misalignment, make the adjustment, and then resume. Your life needs the same principle. If you're feeling misaligned, producing more of the same won't solve it. Working longer hours at a job you hate won't make you feel less lost. Pretending to be more enthusiastic in a relationship that isn't working won't bring alignment. What solves it is stopping, identifying where the specific misalignment is, making the necessary adjustment, and then continuing. And the beauty of it is that the adjustment is almost always smaller than you imagine. You don't need to destroy everything and start over. You just need to recalibrate. Now let's move on to the third protocol. And this one is what transforms the realignment of a one-off event into a permanent state. The Stoics called this prosocia, which means vigilant attention. It's basically the ability to constantly monitor your internal state and make micro-adjustments before small misalignments turn into existential crises. And this isn't paranoia. It's not neurotic hypervigilance. It's what Henry Ford would call real-time quality control. Think about how a modern factory works. There are sensors at every stage of the production process. These sensors monitor temperature, pressure, speed, and quality. And when any parameter deviates from the expected standard, the system alerts you immediately. It doesn't wait for the final product to be ready to discover it's defective. It makes corrections in real time. Your mind needs the same system. And Stoic prosocia is exactly that, an internal sensor that constantly monitors whether you are aligned or not. And you activate this sensor by asking yourself a simple question several times a day. Is what I'm doing now in accordance with what I truly value? This isn't a question meant to generate guilt. It's not a question meant to make you feel bad. It's a diagnostic question. It's like checking your tire pressure before a long trip. You're not judging the tires. You're checking if they're at the correct level to ensure a safe trip. And when you ask this question regularly, you start to notice patterns. You realize that every day at 3 in the afternoon you're doing things that are completely out of sync. Or that every time you're with certain people, you start acting in ways that don't correspond to who you are. Or that in certain environments, you automatically shut down your values and go into survival mode. And when you identify these patterns, you can start making structural adjustments, not based on willpower, based on environmental engineering. Marcus Aurelius practiced this in a specific way. Every day, at the end of the day, he did what the Stoics called a nightly review. He mentally reviewed everything that had happened and asked himself, at what moments today did I act according to my principles? At what moments did I deviate? And most importantly, what can I learn from this for tomorrow? It wasn't about punishing himself, it was about recalibrating, and you can do exactly the same thing. It takes 5 minutes before bed. You don't need to write an elaborate journal. You just need to ask yourself these 3 questions. Where was I aligned today? Where was I misaligned? What does this teach me about how to adjust tomorrow? And when you do this consistently, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling lost because you have an internal navigation system that is always recalibrating. You know exactly where you are, where you're going, and if you need to make adjustments. Now, there's an aspect of misalignment that we need to address because it's what causes the most suffering. It's social misalignment. The feeling that you're living a life that isn't yours because you're trying to meet external expectations. Your parents wanted you to be a doctor, but you wanted to be an artist. Society says success is having an imported car and a big house, but you value freedom and simplicity. Your friends are all getting married and having children, but you want something different. And then you get stuck in this horrible tension between who you are and who you think you should be. And this isn't just psychological discomfort. It literally makes you sick. There's a field of research called psychoneuroimmunology that studies how your mental state affects your immune system. And the data is clear. When you live in constant internal conflict, when you're chronically misaligned, your body enters a state of inflammatory stress. Your immune system becomes compromised. You become more susceptible to disease. You age faster. Your brain literally shrinks. I'm not exaggerating. There are neuroimaging studies showing that people who live in chronic dissonance have atrophy in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Your body wasn't designed to function in permanent misalignment. It was designed to function in integrity, and integrity means that what you think, what you feel, what you value, and what you do are all pointing in the same direction. The Stoics had a radical solution to social misalignment. They called it cosmopolites, citizen of the cosmos. The idea was that you shouldn't base your identity on any external affiliation. Not on your city, not on your family, not on your social class, not on your profession. Your fundamental identity should be, I am a rational being capable of virtue, and all other identities are secondary. This doesn't mean rejecting your family or your culture. It means not letting those things define what you consider right or wrong, good or bad, valuable or worthless. It means having an inner center that doesn't depend on external validation. And here's why this is liberating. When you stop basing your identity on external affiliations, you stop needing the approval of those affiliations to feel whole. You can disagree with your parents and still love them. You can choose a different path than what society values and still feel good about yourself. You can lose your job, your status, your possessions, and still maintain your integrity. Because your integrity isn't in those things. It's in your ability to act according to reason and virtue, regardless of the circumstances. And when you operate from that center, social misalignment simply ceases to be a problem. Not because you've become insensitive or arrogant, but because you have clarity about what defines you and what doesn't. Henry Ford confronted this brutally. When he decided to pay his workers $5 a day, which was double the industry standard at the time, everyone said he was crazy. Other businessmen attacked him. They said he was ruining the labor market, that he was going bankrupt. But Ford knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't operating based on industry expectations. He was operating based on his own principles. Well-paid workers are more productive and loyal workers. And he was right. The Ford Motor Company exploded in productivity and profit. But the point isn't the financial result. The point is that Ford was aligned with his own values, not with market expectations. And this internal alignment is what allowed him to revolutionize the industry. You need to do the same thing. You need to identify what your core values are. Not the values you inherited, not the values you think you should have, but the values that resonate with who you truly are. And then you need to structure your life around those values, even if it means disappointing people, even if it means being different. even if it means giving up things that society considers important. Because here's the ultimate truth: you will never feel aligned living someone else's life. Never. No matter how good that life looks from the outside, if it's not yours, you'll feel lost. And the longer you stay in it, the deeper the misalignment will become. So let me give you the final realignment protocol. It's the most direct and the most difficult, but it's also the most transformative. You're going to make a list of all the areas of your life: work, relationships, finances, health, personal development, social contribution. And for each area, you're going to honestly answer, am I doing this because I truly value it, or am I doing it because it's what's expected of me? If the answer is the second option, you have a clear choice. Either you find a way to realign that area with your true values, or you consciously accept that you are choosing to live misaligned in that specific area. And sometimes the second option is valid. Sometimes you need to do things that aren't perfectly aligned for practical reasons. But the key is to do it consciously, not automatically. Because conscious and temporary misalignment doesn't generate the feeling of being lost. What generates that feeling is unconscious and chronic misalignment. The Stoics had a practice called amor fati, love of fate. And this is often misinterpreted as passive resignation. But it's not. It's the ability to love your life exactly as it is, including the challenges, including the temporary misalignments, because you understand that all of this is part of the growth process. You don't love suffering. You love the opportunity to develop virtue through suffering. You don't love being misaligned. You love the recalibration process that misalignment forces you to go through. Because every time you detect a misalignment and make an adjustment, you are getting closer to who you truly are. You are removing layers of conditioning, false expectations, irrational fears. You are getting closer to your original design. And here's the most important thing you need to understand about alignment. It's not a destination. It's a process. You'll never reach a point where you're perfectly aligned and never need to make adjustments again. Because life changes. You change. Your values evolve. New situations arise. And each change requires recalibration. But when you have the right protocols, when you understand that misalignment doesn't mean you're lost, only that you need adjustment, everything becomes easier. You stop panicking every time you feel that sensation that something is wrong. You simply acknowledge, okay, I'm misaligned in some area. Let's identify where. Let's make the necessary adjustment. Let's continue. Henry Ford said that failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently, and he was right. But I go further. Misalignment is simply the opportunity to recalibrate, this time with greater precision. It's not evidence that you're lost. It's evidence that your internal navigation system is working. It's telling you, hey, we're off course. We need to adjust. And when you learn to listen to that signal without panic, without drama, without catastrophizing, you discover something extraordinary. You were never lost. You always knew the way. You just needed to learn to read the signs correctly. If you've made it this far, I already know something important about you. You don't just want to survive your own confusion, you want to understand the system. And that tells me you're exactly the kind of person who belongs in this community. This channel isn't about magical promises or instant transformations. It's about real people sharing real tools that work in the real world. Every week I bring a new perspective on how your mind works and, more importantly, how you can work with it, not against it. If this makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Not because I'm asking, but because you deserve to have a place where you can learn to build the version of yourself you always knew was inside. The next video is already ready, and I'm sure it will add another piece to the puzzle of your transformation. See you there. Your mind is a factory that works 24 hours a day. The question isn't whether it's producing, but what it's producing. And when you understand that you can control the production process, that you can make adjustments in real time, that you can recalibrate whenever necessary, you realize you were never lost. You were just using the wrong tools. Now you have the right tools. Now you know that misalignment isn't failure. It's information. And when you treat information as information, not as catastrophe, everything changes. You stop feeling lost and start feeling in control. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have the process. And ultimately, the process is all you really need.